Third straight 3-0 start for number 4 Oregon as they remain unbeaten in Big Ten regular season play. 17-0 at the half. In the end, 34-14 the final in Evanston. Fox College Football Extra is sponsored by Amazon. Everything for every fan on Amazon. Plenty of Oregon fans still in attendance. The Ducks now own a plus 132 scoring differential. Rob, Brady, Mark, Nat, Irvin back here with you. The quarterback, Dante Moore, joins us right now. Dante, thanks for taking the time to join us. Curious about the start and how you guys went through everything with the lightning and the rain and then things finally clearing out and then a small stadium, right? This is a unique type of setting. How did you guys manage it in the beginning?
Yeah, this morning we all woke up, saw thunder and lightning, and we were probably thinking of a delay. But Coach Landon said, no matter what the weather is, we're ready to go play ball. So coming out on the field, we knew it would be a small environment, but we're kind of worrying about only us. We know we were bringing the juice. Fire starters was our theme of the week. We made sure we came in and handled business.
Yeah, looking back on this game, maybe you'd say it got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then obviously you guys picked things up. What was the conversation like on the sidelines, conversation at halftime for Coach Lanning? Yeah,
we knew that when they'll get the ball that they'll kill a lot of time with the run game. That's what Midwest football is about, Big Ten football. So we knew we had to capitalize on our drives. And, the first drive we went, 3 and out or whatever it was. And, coming up forward, Coach Landon said we're going to have limited drives, so we got to make sure we capitalize and score. So we did.
What do you love most about playing for Coach Lanning, man? Because this guy's fiery. I would have loved to play for a guy like that.
Yeah, he's a great coach. He has the right recipe of winning. He's been around great coaches in the past, and he's a player's coach. Every time as a player, we communicate with him and ask him, things that we need to get better at, or things we just need to talk to him about. He knows how to adjust to us. So, his speeches are like he's playing them in the future. His speeches are unbelievable. It gets us fired up and ready to get going.
Fellow Michigan dog, you know what it is. Michigan boy. That's why he's stepping so properly. He from that mitten, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no,
you know what it is?
You know what it is. You know what's going on. Michigan boys in here. No, but I respect you so much, man, because you trusted the process. A lot of guys with your status, man, they wouldn't have stayed and learned. But last year you stayed, behind Dylan Gabriel. What did you learn from that experience, and why does it have you thriving right now in the season?
Yeah, I'm big onto God's timing.
Yes, sir.
Of course, in my, especially in our generation, we want things now.
Right.
And I feel like me being able to transfer and take the step back was kind of, a blessing that I did that. Knowing I could trust in God and understand that, Dylan was a vet last year. He's playing a lot of college football games, and the biggest thing I took away from him was preparation. The way he prepared Monday through Friday, and on Saturday, how he just pushed and led the team.
Dante, thanks for joining us. Let's push this thing ahead. You got Oregon State, then the top 5 matchup at State College. How do you keep this team focused? I know it's a rivalry game, but everybody's talking about that one in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we just, we have a lot of games ahead, but I feel like this team, our mindset is 1-0 every week. We're, worrying about that opponent during the week, and, today we're going to fly back home. Tomorrow's going to be a recovery day, and then Monday when we hit the ground, we're going to be straight focused on Oregon State. It's a rivalry game, but every time we take the field, it's us versus us.
Dante, last one before we let you go, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
Just talk to me through your performance. Like, how would you kind of grade yourself, how things went today?
Yeah, as a quarterback, taking the field, the first drive, of course you want to score. We went, 3 and out or whatever the situation was, and, as a quarterback, you got to just bring the juice to the team. The environment, it was windy, things in Mother Nature we can't control. So
right.
As a quarterback, understanding that you can't be late on throws, the downfield throw out through the Corian, he had him beat, just the air got under the ball. But overall, it's a great performance, not forcing many throws and making sure that I was just the leader and make sure I pushed the team forward.
Man, Oregon, man, the quarterback's been up for the Heisman conversation. We got a couple fellow Heismans up here at the table. You keep running the table, you keep balling, man. You know where you're going to be at the end of the year. Can I get one of them things? What you think? Can I get one of them things?
I don't know if I can do it, man. I'm too humble, man. I'm too humble. I appreciate that.
I respect it. That's why I love you. I respect it, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
Gonna hit him up with one
Dante, if Coach Lanning saw you strike the pose on this set, you're gonna be like Syracuse. You're gonna be running laps after the game right now, man. You don't want that. Dante, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations. Safe trip back home. Enjoy the showdown with Oregon State again. Oregon State coming up next here on Fox. Oregon, we're talking about highest winning percentages since 2023, and there are the Ducks at 903, just above Ohio State and just above Georgia as well. We'll continue the conversation here about Oregon. And Coach Meyer, we spent time in the pregame on Big Noon Kickoff asking the question, is Oregon the #1 team in the land? From what you saw today in a unique environment against a Northwestern team, where do you put them right now?
I don't know. I think we're too worried about who's number one and all that. You know what I liked about today? And I know Coach Lanning, he's going to coach the heck out of them. Him and those. If I'm the head coach at Oregon, that's exactly the way the game. If you would have beat, if you would have beat them 63-0, you're dealing with other issues. You have a lot, Brady. How about the player Dante just saying all he's thinking about is the 3 and out, their first drive?
Yeah.
To me, that's a culture.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That fired me up because I know what's going to happen on Sunday, Monday. That team's going to go to work, and they're going to get better.
Constantly improving, right? Constantly improving. That's what he talks about.
I think the biggest thing, and Brady, you talked about this on the pregame show, and we heard Gus and Joel talk about it, just that quarterback, the calmness and the composure that he had. It wasn't easy. You know, obviously the score was lopsided, but that first half was tough. Northwestern did a great job, and he just stayed the course, and that's what good quarterbacks do. He's only going to get better. And then it's just the depth. I think that there's things they can fix. They can look at this film and say, hey, we got to get better. There's things that we can improve on, but the depth on offense, and they can hit you with so many guys, is what makes them dangerous.
Man, we talked about that winning culture, and it's a lot because of that depth. We talked about 8 guys had a rush attempt today. 9 guys had a reception. That's elite depth.
Right.
And that's what I take from this Oregon team, and that's why they're special, man, because not only are they great with their stars and their starters, but they have people that can support them as well.
I know they didn't get off to as fast of a start as they wanted to, and I think everybody anticipated them getting off to, but we tend to forget, look, this is a Big Ten matchup on the road, early start. You know, this front for Northwestern, too, isn't some pushover. I mean, they've got size. They have athleticism on the edges, too. This was passing that test. And I'll go back to this. Rob, what's the point differential?
132.
Okay,
Lord.
Here's the craziest stat for Ducks fans out there. They've been outscored in the fourth quarter.
Oh.
I think it's like 21-3. So it's funny because they mostly have sealed games by halftime.
Pushed back on that one.
But think about this. What do you think? Hey, what do you think Dan Lanning's going to be talking about? Because the long rush at the end of the game, and in particular the fourth quarter, giving up 14 points. And really, if you look at it, they gave up almost 200 yards on the ground today. So you talk about this team, when you met with Dan Lanning, they're constantly trying to improve. Trying to improve on that rush defense is going to be a big key, especially watching today. They got pushed around a little bit. They weren't as stout as I thought they're going to be in this one.
Yeah, I stood on the sideline on purpose because I wanted to see potentially the number 1 team in the country. That's a big, good-looking group. But let's talk about the culture again real quick. The head coach interviewed after the game, always talking about is the last drive where they gave a big hit.
Yeah.
He's going to jump in all over that thing. And then what's the quarterback, Dante Moore, what's the first thing he brings up? Is the opening drive where they didn't start fast. To me, that I love that culture right now of Oregon football.
We'll know much more about this Oregon team in the coming weeks. Again, a big rivalry game next week against Oregon State, and Oregon State on our air coming up next. Of course, Penn State looming in the distance as well for Oregon. They don't have Ohio State on the regular season schedule. Coach thinks they're going to see them twice.